basic makeup training. I hope you've been enjoying the classes so far, and still on your journey to achieving a flawless look when it comes to basic makeup, self makeup. We are at the section now where we want to apply our foundation, and foundation application comes with a lot of things you need to do to be able to achieve a flawless look. Now, first of all, you need to be able to control the oil on the client's face, and for that we use what we call face primer. I'm using a classic face primer. Like I said, they've not paid me for adverts, but we don't mind if they do so. So there are lots of good products out there that you can also use. For an extremely oily skin, you might consider using a pond, but for a regular skin, you can use what I'm using. It will still do a good job. And what does this do? It helps to retain the makeup. You don't sweat out, you understand. For all the sections you want to apply your foundation, you might consider applying this underneath first before you apply your foundation. And for this class, I'm going to be showing you how to apply a flawless foundation and then go extra mile to do a little bit of the highlights and contouring. It's a popular thing when it comes to makeup and the rest of them. So I'm going to be using again classic, which is her tone. I'm using a classic 6074 if you have this shade of color as a person, so you might want to try it out. And so looking at her face, she doesn't have much of the blemish, so I might not really go into using a dark shade of concealer. But if we notice any kind of blemish on her face, you might want to use a darker shade to try to patch it up. You can do what I'm doing. You try to patch it up. So that's why we say you might have these tools in your house, but you don't really know what function they perform. So these are part of the things you do. They are all correctors apart from being concealer. What's the meaning of concealer? It conceals, it hides spots, it corrects. So that's what I'm doing even before I apply my foundation. Then for the foundation application, I like to always control this. And what do? I try to put it at the back of my palm. So from there I take the quantity I need. A good tool to use is your beauty blender. You can see the different edges. You see this section when you want to dab around the normal section of the face, and you have this when you want to do something underneath her eye so that you don't smack whatever product you've already applied here. And I like to reveal a secret. If you want this to stick very well, you might consider touching a liquid on it. And the liquid I'm using is my setting spray. If you have water, you can use water. What I'm doing is a trick to help it sit very well. So I use this. I try to drop at this section. And what I'm doing, I'm dabbing. So I take it little by little and I dab. I'm sure you must have seen the before look, and then you're seeing the transformation gradually, and how we are getting close to achieving a flawless look. So whenever you see those flawless pictures on your YouTube page, Facebook and the rest, this is how a good one, some of them were achieved. So for the sake of the class and for the sake of my students around, I'm concentrating on one section of the face. They are going to be completing the other section so that you see that yes, you can do it yourself. Even with the video, whether you are physically present or not, if you follow the step-by-step instructions we've used on this video, you should be able to achieve a flawless look. And by the way, if you're working on a client, open up your lips, and they tend to close up their lips. Ask them to open it up. We're also using the opportunity to set that lip area. Watch what I'm doing. I'm dabbing. Now I'm using the leftover to go around the forehead section. Remember, you see, because we already applied this color of foundation while we were doing the brows, it's easy to blend. You don't have to have a heart attack trying to blend the upper section. So you see, even the front lines, we try to dab to achieve that natural look around that section. We're already beginning to get that transformation look. If your foundation is not enough, like I said, it's easier to control, to take it bit by bit. You don't want to run into trouble having excess foundation on the face. So I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to be extending it to her ear section. You don't want to have different tones on the skin simply because you're trying to wear a good look. You're careful and you blend well. You're careful and you blend well. Keep doing this. Keep doing this. Keep dabbing. Remember, the method is dabbing. You're dabbing. You're dabbing even onto the neck area until it vanishes and blends into her skin. You don't want to have a Fanta face and a Coke neck. So you try to dab. Keep dabbing. Keep dabbing. If you need more of the foundation, go ahead. But ensure you're not taking excess. And for whatever blemish, you try to cover. And like I said, I love to use the liquid based for proper setting. For proper setting. For proper setting. Now, after this, I like to use a good Kaviki kind of brush, very strong, to blend out very well for even tone. Makeup is about proper blending. If you don't blend well, you might end up having the Mary one side and the cake the other side. You don't want to have that. So you try to blend. This is foundation application. You can be creative, but at the same time, very, very definite. You can see, even before we apply our final setting powder or loose powder, you need to achieve this look. So immediately after this, the next to do on the list on your journey towards achieving your basic self makeup, we want to highlight and contour this face. And for that, I can use this. Now, if you have this, the Liquid Pro Concealer, it comes in different shades, by the way. It comes in different shades. You need both the lighter shade and a darker shade. Now, when it comes to lighter and darker shade, it depends on the client. You can see she's not a light-skinned client, but at the same time, we can work out something for her. So I try to use an angle brush. For this section, it has to be light. For this section, it has to be light. For this section, light also. But for this section, it has to be darker shade. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Light Pro Concealer and make a V shape like this. Drop some here, as well as here, and also here. Watch the parts we are doing that. More like the T zones. You understand? I do here, I drop here, I drop here, and I drop here. When you're trying to achieve a highlight and contour. Now the next thing to do is to use the darker shade also to achieve what you've done with this. And the question is, what are the sections you put the darker shades? Watch me. This is a darker shade. I'll try to use part of her foundation color to achieve that. And drop here. See the way we're going? Around her brow bone. If you cannot get the measurement, you might want her to do something like this. Yes, so you get the brow bone section. Watch us. And you do here. about this section. You cast a shade. That's what we're doing. You cast a shade around here too. Cast a shade. Then, by the two sections of her nose, because we're trying to also contour the nose, you cast a shade. Remember, you can use her foundation color to cast a shade. Starting from here, you cast a shade. For the sake of the training, like I said, they will do this section, so I'm concentrating on here. So the next thing to do about this is to be very, very creative with it. Now you have dropped so much on her face, but you want to be able to achieve a well blended face. So you start by blending this part. And how do you blend? You dab. I'm not going to clean off this, but I'm going to make it sit onto her skin, and I'm going to make sure that that section is looking very light. So I continue to do something like this. Continue to do something like this. Watch me. Just watch and follow the way I'm doing it. Watch and follow the way I'm doing it. Watch and follow the way I'm doing it, and how to extend it and where to stop. Watch and follow, you know. So it's spreading. You can see it's spreading. So you know exactly where to stop. It's spreading. You can see that place is looking all littered up. You can concentrate on this part too. All the way. Spread it on her forehead. All the way. Spread it on her forehead. All the way. Spread it on her forehead. That is highlighting. We are highlighting the T-zones. I've done this part. I'm doing here. The next part is the nose. That's why you have this pointed out. So the designers of all these makeup items, they already know what the tools are used for. So when next you see some of these things in the market, you're like, what are these ones used for? That's why you need a makeup artist like jannysmiles Studio to tell you how to use this. You see? This is what we do, and we all of a sudden make the face look very pointed. The nose, you know, trying to achieve that model-like look for you. Remember, I'm concentrating first on the light colors that I was trying to highlight. Makeup is about blending. Makeup is about ensure you blend properly. Remember, we put something here. Remember at the jaw section. These are the front lines of every human being. These are the sections that immediately you get to see somebody, that's the first thing you focus on. So these are all the parts that gets to be highlighted, and you can see how I'm focusing on making it blend very well. That's it about this. So the next thing to do is to blend out the other darker shades. You might want to use a different beauty blender for that, so that you are sure you are not combining the lighter shade and the darker shade, so it doesn't affect the colors. Just the same way you have blended, you try to also blend this part. You blend this part. You can use her foundation darker color to do this. For this part, you know, whenever you see a human being, you see this shade cast around the person's side ear view. That's exactly what you are trying to achieve doing this highlights and contour. Nothing more. Same here. And for the darker shade, even underneath here, it needs to be dark because it's not always in view. Now, for this other section, you can do this. Dab. Dab. ensure it's well blended. So the next thing to do after that is to use your loose powder, or what we call the finishing powder. And in our Facebook palette, we have a loose powder that we can use to set this whole area. Now, for her color, she's not light, but for the sake of the highlight and contour, we can use a little bit lighter color to set what we've already done. So we dab, we make it sit onto the skin here. By the way, highlight and contour is usually for a special occasion. Maybe you're going on a photo shoot, or you're going for your weddings, you know, birthday parties, photo shoots and all that. If you're just going to work, or maybe you just want to relax for an evening event, you may not need to go about doing all the highlights or the contours, you know. Raise your eye up. Ensure you put enough of the lighter powder here. Don't worry, you will still have a way to blend out everything. But for the sake of what we're doing, here needs to be all pronounced. Remember I told you that there are places that must be pronounced. These are the major sections during highlight and contour that must be pronounced. Then of course, the darker shade, we can use this for the darker shade, the darker shade sections. And I go over to use my palm brush to achieve an even tone using her regular powder for everything. For everything, try to blend and whisk off the leftover particles for everything. Keep doing that, it's making a great effect you might not know, to achieve that smooth look. Turn your face. Use her regular color to cover up the whole section so that it's all toned down. If you feel that it's not popping out as it should, go ahead and still dab the front section. Those are the major section. Raise your eye and make it pop out the way you want. Go ahead. Remember the nose contour section. We're not leaving it out. There is an angular brush used for the nose contour section. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this to take it and then craftily make that line. This is what we actually use to mark out the part we want to look all penciled out. By the time I create this here and I create here, I'm left with just the middle part. So by the time I apply what we call bronzer, as soon as you look at the model, it looks very sharp at that edge and pointed. So everything about makeup, you have to be quite definite about. this is what your foundation and a simple highlight and contour looks like. See you in the next class when we'll be talking about your lipstick application. Thank you.